Welcome to The Pillars, the podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing. And we're here with some tips for your new year. And hopefully you'll find some help here. But first I want to introduce who's here with me. First of all, I'm Chaplain Jim.
Hey, I'm Dr. Reed.
I'm Dr. Jerry.
And Tech Sergeant Jacqulyn.
And we know this time of year, we're all kind of concerned about our fitness. We've just come off the holidays. We might have eaten a little too much pecan pie, or pecan, depending on how you pronounce it. And you're thinking, what do I need to do to get ready for my either next fitness test or your fitness goals? Because we all know your summer body is made in the winter. So right now, how do you achieve your goals? Because all of us are in different places. Some of us have older kids here in this room. Some of us have younger kids. So we want to start with kind of what the barriers are, like what the challenges are to reaching your fitness goals.
And we're talking about fitness goals because this is a common time of year when people will make those New Year's resolutions and decide that they want to improve something about themselves physically. More often than not, that's the type of goal they set for themselves. And we talk a lot in the military about being smart when you set your goals, the SMART acronym. But that doesn't always give us a good mechanism to set and be consistent with these types of goals, at least not anywhere past January or February. And so we wanted to talk about some ways that you can not only sustain these goals for the longer term and plan for some of the obstacles and barriers, but be realistic in how you set these initial goals in the first place.
So I'm not experiencing any PT test anxiety right now because I took mine in November, so I'm good. Yeah, I'm good until November. But I think I do want to address some of the anxieties that people feel around fitness. You know, a lot of people are at this time of the year probably shoulding on themselves, which is a phrase I use sometimes. You know, like, oh, I really should be getting back into fitness, or I should be doing this. This is a year that I'm going to, quote unquote, be a better person, or, you know, setting these kind of vague, or not smart goals, to your point, Dr. Jerry. But I want to talk about the anxiety because it can be a barrier to achieving fitness or any other goals that we set for ourselves. And I want to point out that something that is a pet peeve of mine is that whenever there's anxiety, there is some product or service out there that markets itself as a way to kind of mitigate that anxiety. So right now, I don't know about you, but all over my social media feed, I'm seeing all kinds of products and services, whether that's for personal trainers or this particular smoothie, you know, meal replacement thing, or anything that would just sort of take care of that. They're making it too easy for me, essentially. But it may be preying on people's anxieties about their ability to achieve their goals.
Absolutely. And another source of that anxiety, besides just societal expectations and feeling like this is something we're supposed to do, is our past failures at these attempts. And so we've made some changes in the past and they just weren't sustainable. Or we tried to eat less, to work out more frequently, or try a different workout plan, and it just wasn't something we were able to keep up over, you know, the period of a few weeks or several months. And so we find ourselves in a situation now where we're looking at trying to achieve this goal maybe for the 5th or 6th or 20th time, and just like quitting smoking, we have the ultimate relapse and get depressed and anxious about ever restarting it again.
With that being said, it does take time to formulate new habits. You can't wake up, go to bed on the 31st of December and say, tomorrow on the 1st of January, my life is going to be changed, and all of a sudden I'm going to be physically fit. It takes time. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to really establish a habit, and that includes working out. So you start slowly. I am a runner, but I've neglected my running over the last few months. So I know that I have to start. And if that start means 10 minutes until I build my endurance and stamina back up, then so be it. But I'm not going to be able to run a marathon tomorrow, but slowly I can add time or add speed or whatever, but it just doesn't happen overnight, and we have to be realistic about our own expectations.
Yeah, how many of us have fallen into that trap of like picking a significant date like New Year's or a birthday or something? Or Monday.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, and just saying like, all right, this is the first day of the rest of my life. Now, it's true in one sense. There's no better time than the present to start on something, but sometimes we rely too much on big anniversaries or dates to be, well, this will surely be the kick in the pants that I need. But I hope that you will talk more about, because I remember in a previous podcast that we did with you, you talked about you weren't always a runner.
No, I wasn't always a runner. And not to belabor the point, but I deployed in 2014 to Afghanistan, and I was about 40 pounds overweight. And every time I think of that, I just cringe. And I made up my mind, when I go on this deployment, I'm going to leave here a runner. That was my goal. I had 6.5 months to do it in. And I didn't care if I was a fast runner, but I was going to be a runner. I ran my first mile about 15 minutes, and it was horrible. And at that very moment, I could have said, you know what, I'm not going to do this, because 15 minutes, for 1 mile, that's a really long time. Most people could walk a mile in 15 minutes. But I was determined, and I stayed strong, and I stayed motivated, even though I wasn't always motivated. But I got up to 5 miles before I left that deployment. And my very last mile that I ran in Afghanistan, I ran it in 8 minutes and 9 seconds. 15. So I shaved basically my mile run time by half. And I told myself I will never, ever, ever be in that position again. And it's been almost 5 years, and I haven't been back in that position. But it's taken time. It took me, after that, it took me 2 years to run my first half marathon. It didn't happen overnight, and I wasn't a runner overnight.
And deployment is like a good space, right?
Absolutely.
People start a lot of goals on deployments because there is some space carved out for them. And Jerry, you're talking about barriers. I think that was one of the topics you intended. Like, what if you don't have the luxury of a deployment?
Right.
That sounds... Said no one ever, right? Luxury.
No, Tech Sergeant Jacqulyn's right. I mean, I experienced a similar thing when I was deployed. I ended up losing something like 40 or 50 pounds over the course of that deployment. But it's because I was away from family and didn't have to deal with kids or cooking meals, grocery shopping, any of that
distractions.
stuff. Yeah. I mean, I worked, I exercised, I slept, rinse, repeat every single day for 6-7 months. Life's a lot simpler in a lot of ways on deployment. And when you come back home, to all those responsibilities can be a lot more difficult. You have a lot more barriers and obstacles in your way to maintaining those fitness goals. And so I know we were just talking, the four of us, about how we all have families, we all have kids of various ages, and sometimes those responsibilities are going to get in the way of some personal goals that we have for ourselves. And we have to figure out how we're going to make time for those things that are important for us and be very intentional, especially when it comes to those fitness goals, and make sure that our significant others and everybody else who could be affected by that are on board.
Yeah, I think this is a great point. So Jerry, a couple of weeks ago, invited me to start playing racquetball with him, right? Now, Dr. Jerry is an actual racquetball player. I am not.
A competitive racquetball player.
So Dr. Jerry is very competitive across all spheres of his life. I played racquetball last in college, and I think it was apparent the first time that we played and the second time that we played.
We had fun.
You might have had fun. I was sore for no good reason, but anyway, yeah, I did have a lot of fun, and that in and of itself was sort of motivating to want to play. And I think that's important, picking something that can be fun. But going back to what you said about family, and my family has goals, my family has expectations, and there's a certain culture in my family, and one of those things is you're around for those important transition times, whether that's in the morning or the afternoon when kids are getting home from school, or transitioning, the witching hour at 5 o'clock. I need your help with homework and dinner and, getting, bedtime routines. That doesn't leave a lot of time for, spending hours at the gym. So I want to acknowledge that some of these barriers include maybe having a conversation with your partner or whoever it is you're hoping will support you in your fitness goals about, hey, this might be tantamount to some pretty big changes in our family.
And absolutely, you're right. And for me, at least when my kid was still a little baby, the only times where I could reasonably get away to actually leave the house and go to the gym was either early in the morning before the rest of the family woke up, or after everybody went to bed. And so it was cutting into my sleep schedule. But that was feasibly the only time where I could really do that if I wanted to go to the gym and get a formal workout in. But that said, there are other alternatives to getting some kind of mechanism of physical activity. And in fact, my wife and I, after she gave birth and was trying to lose the baby weight and everything, we would, all of us as a family, go on a walk together. And I'd strap the kid in one of those little dad packs on my front, and we'd go hike the Nolan Trail, or we'd throw him in the stroller and just walk around the neighborhood. I mean, those were, some days, that's all the exercise that we could get, but it was better than nothing.
Killing two birds with one stone, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, we talked about it as a family, and I have a 13, 11, and 8-year-old, and they love going to the gym. And in our gym here on Langley, there's actually a room for parents where you can bring a child that you can work out in the room safely.
Yep.
And I now work out with my son, who's 13, in the afternoons. They enjoy that. When they were little, we had to buy a spin bike off of a popular online website that delivers in 2 days. And what they sent it to me is we were able to sit, and I put my baby and at that point Samantha in a carrier, and I was able to actually play video games with a headset because she wouldn't sleep like in the middle of the night. And I'm like, this is awesome. I can get some serious, I won't say the game, but playing this game and move and spin. And I'm like, this is amazing. Now, my workouts at that age were like a stroller, going for a walk or a run, like packing them in. We were in Colorado, it's cold, but pack them in warm and go for a run. I mean, whatever you can do to get movement in it at any age. The other thing is you don't have to do the gym for your workout. There are plenty of DVD services, online services, even YouTube. You can go look at a workout and do it in your living room. And so really you can find a way to get some kind of movement in, which is the goal.
Yeah.
Also, I think that you need to be realistic about when you go to the gym or when you schedule your workouts. If I try to tell myself that I'm going to work out in the mornings, that will never happen for me because I have a 4-year-old, I have 2 dogs, I'm single parenting right now. So I know that I cannot get up and go to the gym in the morning because there's no possible way for that to happen.
Sure.
So I make sure that I schedule my gym time for the afternoon before I even pick my child up. So I have that time for myself to be able to get my workout in, not have to worry about what am I going to do with her. And then after I'm done, I pick her up and continue on with life. But I'm realistic knowing that it's not going to work for me in the mornings, at least right now while my husband's gone. So maybe later, but right now I know the afternoon works for me.
And you're exactly right. Like you have to know when it works for you. Now, for many of you're in the parenting stage, single parenting stage for all intents and purposes for just a few more days. Yeah. But if you're, let's say, a commander, a senior NCO, you don't have little ones, my suggestion always is to work out in the morning. Working out in the morning is correlated with higher levels of leadership. However, it also may be the only time you go. When I talk to senior leaders all across this wing and across the Air Force, they bring their gym bag and they know an airman at the gym is an airman on duty and they've scheduled that time. And when I say, how many times do you bring that? Have you ever opened that bag? And they will start laughing because they've never gone in the afternoon. It doesn't matter what they do because family time takes over. So my suggestion and what I see even with the COMAC in the morning here in the gym, like you have to come in the morning if you're a senior leader
well, it's a great way to start your day and to get the blood pumping, get those hormones circulating. Your stress hormones are actually the highest. They peak right in the very beginning of your day when you first wake up, and they taper off gradually throughout the day. So by the afternoon, you're losing energy, you're exhausted from your day. All you want to do is go home, and that exercise plan you had can sometimes be the first thing that goes out the window.
Yeah, I think we've probably talked on the Pillars before about finding the right timing for you. Maybe you're a morning lark. I think we heard this phrase yesterday, or a night owl. Knowing something about yourself and where you have those productive periods is probably a good way to start thinking about where to put your gym time or your exercise time. But what I'm hearing kind of around the table is that there's lots of room for innovation, when it comes to this. And, it may just, we talk about innovation a lot, right? I don't know that we think about innovation in this sense, but it may take some really creative thinking about how to get this really important aspect of our military lives to be a regular thing so that we can continue to hit those goals. As we look around the enterprise and the Air Force, we're hearing about changes to PT coming up. We're talking about Tier 2 testing. If you've been on the interwebs this week, you've probably seen some information about that coming out, as well as new information about readiness. And they're also talking about the idea of maybe being able to PT test at a moment's notice. Getting a little bit of lead time, but being able to essentially, we always say, stay ready, don't get ready. So this may take some real dedicated thought and some innovation. I just want to highlight, the 51st Intelligence Squadron down at Shaw. They innovated and came up with a great program. A program that's celebrated across our wing, really, that's targeting, post-maternal mothers and sort of their efforts to get back into the swing of things. And I think, whether it's programs or just some leadership or whatever it might be, I think we need to look at breaking down barriers in our life, personal barriers, but maybe there's organizational barriers. Leaders can set expectations that, hey, I'm giving you 3 hours a week to go PT, and being really dogged about that and being serious about giving that time to your airmen. If you don't have squadron PT regularly, you gotta find that time.
And that's something that I've talked with a lot of airmen about is that time may be tacitly available to them, but not many people will take it because they feel like they have too much to do at work, or they feel like it wouldn't be seen as acceptable within their flights or within their squadron. But I think that's something as Air Force leaders we need to almost enforce, that you will take those 3 hours a week out of your schedule to make intentional time for fitness.
Absolutely, because your health isn't going to slip dramatically over the course of one day, right? And so that's why it's usually the first thing to go. In the press of the day, if you've got something that you can be achieving at your desk or a tasker that you're trying to respond to, PT, you've pushed it off in the past probably, you can push it off again another day. Your chances are you're not gonna have a heart attack tonight or something terrible isn't gonna happen. It's just that insidious creep, though, that happens. And you get into these patterns of behavior where over periods of time, your health does start to decline.
That's a great point.
And you can't fix it all in one day.
Weight creep is very real. I mean, just a few extra calories or a few missed workouts out of each week over the course of a year can add to 5 to 10 extra pounds in that year. And over the course of your 20-year career, all of a sudden, you're this incredibly obese person and you don't know quite how it happened. And that's why it's important to do just at least a little bit every single day so that it doesn't creep up on you. And, Brene Brown has a lot of great talks out there. I don't know if you guys have seen some of her YouTube videos or her TED Talks. And one thing that she said, and I think she quoted the original person who said this, was, the 20-minute walk I did today is better than the 4-mile run I didn't do. And I think that's important to keep in context. Because sometimes we hold ourselves to these lofty ideals like, I've got to get this great big workout in, and if I don't find time for it, doesn't happen, well, I'll just push it to the next day. But even just doing a little each day can help, over the grander scheme of things, prevent that weight creep. I know, like I was talking before about how my wife and I had to get creative with the baby around as to when we worked out. There'd be times where we would literally just hold the kid up against our chest and do squats in our living room. I mean, that counted as our workout. In between, we're watching football games. Actually did that this year. During the commercial breaks, I'd do squats or push-ups. And over the course of an entire football game, that added up to like 300 squats and 200 push-ups. That's a good workout.
And there's actually organizations for folks, although I won't say the name, that involve strollers and walking, where they have groups that get together and do fitness around that activity with the little one. So there is always a way to get a workout in. And if you say there's no possible way, really you're just making an excuse. That's the bottom line. And we've all been there, and there are difficult times. I'm not trying to be mean or harsh, but there's no reason that you can't do it. In some way, over a 5-day period, getting like 3 20 to 30-minute workouts, there's no way. There's no excuse. Absolutely.
I think the point is that we need to sometimes broaden what we think of in terms of what a workout is.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be going to the gym, getting on the elliptical or treadmill for 20, 30 minutes or doing certain, it could be something just
it could be walking up and down your stairs, which I mean, I've had to do with a sick child, walking up and down stairs for a half hour. It's a workout.
Beyond it being good for you physically, it's also good for you mentally.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could have the worst day, and sure, I want to get my fitness in for the physical aspect of it because it's kind of a requirement to be in the military. But at the end of a workout, I feel my head's clear. I just, overall, I feel better. And then the next day, I feel good when I'm sore because I know then that I got a good workout in. So it's not just good for you physically, but mentally. I feel like I can withstand a little bit more stress if I'm consistently working out rather than if I'm not.
That's a great point. And a big part of the reason for that, especially when it comes to cardiovascular exercise, is the deprivation of oxygen that happens in that cardiovascular exercise produces lactic acid and actually helps to break down some of the hormones that cause stress in the first place. Right. So you're actually getting a double whammy. You're negating the stress, so you're feeling less anxious, less depressed, but you're also getting the positive endorphins from that exercise, so you're feeling good at the same time. So you're getting all kinds of great benefits from working out, even just a little bit.
And to piggyback on that, on the spiritual side, breath is recognized by most religious traditions as being associated with the spirit. In fact, in Hebrew and Greek, the word for spirit also means breath. So what's interesting is when we're here and focused on our breath, whether you're doing yoga or running or you're doing that breath management, there's a spiritual piece to it. So of course the endorphin high and so forth is wonderful. I've run too, not as much as you anymore, but it's great. But I believe there's a spiritual piece. And for those of you trying to get your spirituality in, a lot of folks will sit with their scripture reading or their devotion in the morning and coffee. I'd challenge you, get on your spin bike, get on a recumbent bike, and try to either, and if you can't sit and read it, like throw on headphones. I actually have 3 or 4, for my tradition, Bible audiobooks that I'll listen to, and they're chaptered out. I listen to them in the morning. It's how I personally do it because I'm an auditory learner. If you're someone who needs to read, like sit down with it and just get some movement in. You'll feel better. I swear you'll feel better. So just give it a go. It's a way to double dip, so to speak.
So to summarize everything that we talked about today, and we talked about a lot, I think the biggest thing is to try to identify what your particular obstacles are to having a fitness lifestyle, and then figuring out how you're going to negotiate those things with the important people in your life, with all your different responsibilities, whether that be parenting or a crazy work schedule, and then finding ways throughout the day that you can make physical fitness work, and just kind of opening up your mind in terms of what you think about physical fitness as being. It doesn't have to be as traditional as going to the gym every single day for an hour. That's just not feasible for all of us. So be very interested to hear if you guys have some recommendations or little tips and tricks in your own physical fitness lives. Please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we hope you have a great Air Force Day. Thanks for listening to The Pillars.